Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 836. Today, the SPaMCAST 836 celebrates Halloween. Over the years, instead of just one night, people have decorated their houses and celebrate for at least a month. We love a party, right? In celebration of what has become the 7th largest retail holiday in the United States, let's take a spooky look at the outcome of poor work intake and celebrate that we can banish the spooks and shades of poor work intake. We also hear from Jeremy Berriault, who brings his Evolutionary Agilist column to the podcast. In this episode, we discuss the impact of adding new team members to a long-lived, high-performing team when the new person wants to strike out in a new direction. Eek! The SPaMCAST 836 is brought to you by Mastering Work Intake by Jeremy Berriault and Tom Cagley. Join one of our 2 upcoming Mastering Work Intake workshops to help learn to address IT's nastiest and dirtiest little secret, poor work intake. The next 2 workshops are taking a compressed approach to help you kickstart 2025. Seats are available in our sessions on November 9th, 9 a.m. to noon, Eastern Standard Time by then, and December 6th, 9 a.m. to noon, again, Eastern Standard Time. One's a Friday, one's a Saturday. More information, registration at maven.com/Jeremy-Willits/Mastering Work Intake. Link in the show notes. Simply put, if you don't control work intake, it controls you. No workshops for you? Buy a copy of Mastering Work Intake and begin to take control of the flow of work for your team and organization. Links in the show notes to order a copy from J. Ross Publishing or on Amazon. Work Intake Halloween by Thomas M. Cagley Jr., Megan E. Cag. Every October 31st, we celebrate Halloween. Yay! Over the years, instead of just one night, people decorate their houses and celebrate for at least a month. I had a conversation last night where someone suggested that they keep up all of their Halloween stuff through Thanksgiving. Interesting approach. We love a party. In celebration of what has become the 7th largest retail holiday in the United States, let's take a spooky look at the outcome of poor work intake and celebrate the fact that we can banish the spooks and shades of poor work intake. 1. Zombie teams. Like zombies, team members are exhausted from endless tasks, barely making it through the day. With too much work and no breaks, they're moving in slow motion and missing key details. Perhaps a resurrection day, when the spigot of work is closed off so they have time to rest, refresh, and come back to life. 2. Werewolf burnout. Team members transform under pressure, just like werewolves at midnight. They become stressed and unapproachable. The constant push turns friendly colleagues into work beasts. Only product owners and managers have the silver bullet of manageable workloads nearby to prevent work wolves from emerging. 3. Haunted backlogs. Tasks pile up, lurking like ghosts. Everyone's afraid to tackle the backlog, knowing there's just too much to handle. Stories that long since should have been retired still haunt refinement session. Isn't it time to call the Ghostbusters and clear out the ghostly backlog with a team sprint or a dedicated priorities session? 4. Vampire boss. Constantly sucking more time and energy from team members, the vampire boss assigns work without considering capacity, draining team resources. Arm team members with holy water and garlic by setting clear boundaries around work hours and priorities. 5. Frankenstein projects. These monster projects, or products or PIs, choose your poison, are pieced together from various disjointed parts. They require so much work that they're clunky and chunky and hard to finish, always getting bigger than planned. Reanimate the project by dividing it into smaller, clear pieces that feel more human and generate faster feedback. 6. Mummified morale. Team morale is all wrapped up. No one feels appreciated or energized. They feel stuck in endless tasks and stories, like a mummy in its wrappings. How many Jira cards are there on your board? Unwrap morale with recognition, celebration, and breaks from the curse of non-stop ticket churn. 7. Phantom of lost communication. Important messages vanish and misunderstandings haunt the team. The faster they work, the more critical information disappears into the ether. Rehone your daily planning meetings, daily scrum or the like, your name it, or set up regular, clear communication touch points to exercise the phantom of poor communication. 8. The grim reaper of deadlines. Deadlines loom like a scythe, cutting down energy and creativity. After every stand-up meeting, you realize the Grim Reaper is around the corner, adding pressure without reprieve. Lighten the Reaper's load, prioritizing key milestones over constant deadlines, and focusing on delivering value with every iteration. These spooky impacts of poor work intake can destroy teams. You don't have to be related to Buffy the Vampire Slayer to rescue team dynamics. With proactive leadership, you can help them come back from the dead. Happy Halloween! Jeremy Berriault, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast. Jeremy, today, let's tackle the subject of how one deals with integrating a new person into a well-performing, long-lived, close-knit team without unraveling it.
Yes, especially without unraveling it. Because, you're throwing in something completely new into an environment where probably this team, they've known each other. They can almost finish each other's sentences. So I think one of the ways I would frame it is probably, like, depending on the attitude of the team, would be one of the ways to focus on is keeping the product alive, like bringing in this new individuals to help keep the product alive and help make their lives a lot easier, even producing it. And that it'll keep the product going long after, like, they retire or they move on to another position. And for the most part, individuals, like humans, we want to help other people. We want to be nice. We want to help each other. And I think bringing in a new person and letting them know that, hey, they're going to be helping them improve. It's going to be a kind of a back and forth, but they are there to basically make the team better. It's not to replace anyone. I think that's probably one of the biggest fears, like, oh, you're bringing in someone new because you're going to replace us or something like that. And that's never the case. It's just, okay, it's to help build a team and probably even inject new ideas. And I think a lot of people don't see that, is that fresh pair of eyes could actually make the team better, and they see things in a different light.
I don't want to sound too Pollyanna-ish, but bringing new people in is not never a backdoor mechanism to replace high-priced people. That, as a matter of fact, I would suggest is a fairly common approach. So that's a fear that people have. And just, waving our hands and saying that's never what people are up to, I don't think that, I think that might be a little bit of a disservice. How would you address that in a team where that may have happened before?
Oh, if I was there as a consultant view, I probably wouldn't go too far into that, because, again, I don't know the motives behind the leadership going in. Now, if I go into one of my previous roles where I was an executive and I brought new people into the team, I would be very upfront. I would let them know, like, no, this is to help the teams get better. We have work coming in. I don't want to overload them in work. And this is to allow us to get more value and productivity out and provide out to the clients. So if I was to do that, and like I said, in my old leadership role, that's how I'd approach it. Just because they say kind of with the level of work and with what we want to do from a roadmap and going forward within the product and the outcomes we want, we need the extra hands and eyes to come in to help us get better. As a third party kind of coach going in to help out the team out, I would not even probably look at that. I probably wouldn't even mention anything like that. It would be more helping them try to, as a team, derive the right kind of mechanisms for them to take in this new person, for the person to roll up their sleeves, get the work done without drastically negatively impacting their productivity or workflow.
So we're going to just try to help people understand that this new person's there not to lower the cost structure of the team or the organization, but to help them get better. How does a new person help a team get better?
It's more about a fresh pair of eyes, looking at potential problems and looking at different solutions.
What if the person's older than the people coming on? So they're actually an older pair of eyes. I'm kidding with the fresh.
But still, if I just finished reading the book Idea Flow, and it was very interesting, some of the topics that were brought up in this book. And one of the topics was how at Patagonia, they had I think it was a shipping supervisor or shipping person, come with them on a trip to work, to go surfing, and how he came up with some ideas to create a better wetsuit that's more environmentally friendly than the neoprene and warmer out in the water, because he was not a surfer. The one thing he didn't like was the cold water. And in the book, he talked about how the other people from Patagonia who are surfers, they were just used to the water. They didn't really think about it. And they came up with a new idea. And this person that came up with the idea, they were using, I think it was wool. They were using in the wetsuit type design. He progressed on and he became like a VP or a head of another company designing clothing equipment or clothing. So it's that fresh pair of eyes kind of looking in. For me personally, I guess a good example would be when I moved on from banking into the U.S. healthcare electronic records software. I came in, I kind of looked at a few things. The teams were very steadfast on getting, this is how the work gets done. I came in and it was just more out of my own curiosity. I didn't want to kind of give new ideas. It was just my curiosity asking questions that brought up all these new ideas for them to actually get work done and be more efficient in what they were doing.
So, fresh set of eyes. What if the team really is resistant? They're of the opinion, and I had a conversation with another one of our friends and columnists, John, who related a team that basically, an engineering team, that basically told the new person that came in, you do it the way we tell you to do it, and you stick to your lane, regardless of whether it screws up or not. You're doing a lot of 5 behaviors and everything DISC. Using that kind of leverage, what's an approach to actually dealing with that kind of a scenario?
For everything DISC, like there's like the 5 levels of building up till you get to the results. And like the first one is really just kind of building out trust. Like you have to, without building out trust, you can't get into positive conflict. You can't get into agreement. You can't get into up to the results. So if for a team like that, they're coming out saying, stay in your lane, do what we say, then regardless, there's obviously a trust issue within just bringing that new person. And it would be more having a conversation as to, what is it that's causing you to say, like, what's making you say, okay, just stay in your lane. This is the way, this is how it's done, regardless. Don't make any changes. Don't rock the boat. Like, what is it? Like, maybe it was a past experience. Someone new came in and they just outright, they kind of started throwing all these new ideas out and it freaked them out. And I think it's more building that trust within the team so that they can not only trust one another and get the work done, but it can also be trust and be open and honest with each other. And that's where that helps build things out. So, and if you look at everything DISC, or like even just the DISC model itself, everyone has like kind of 4 main behaviors. There's some subsets within it, but it's understanding how everyone works and their motivations. Then that can be adapted. You can change, you can work with that and become better at what you do and make the team more effective.
How do you define trust?
So for me, trust is, I want to be able to not be scared to say what I want to say. And obviously, I'm not going to go up to a team and say some very nasty things. But if I go up to a team and I trust them, I can be very open and say, "Hey, Tom, you're committed to getting this, but we're kind of falling behind and you're not getting done. Do you need any help, or is there something going on?" It's that type of level of trust where I can be not afraid of saying what I want to say or doing what I want to do, and knowing that with what I want to say and what I do is for the betterment of the team or for the betterment of the process or getting things done. That's kind of where you get that level of trust. And we know that trust is earned, and obviously you have to kind of warm up and get into that point. But it does, when you get to that level, those really truly high performing teams, they are very open and honest. Again, another book I read, Radical Candor, and it was interesting where there were some parts in that book where the author says, like, "Yeah, I had this person on a team," and I said,
"Full of bleep."
Full of bleep. This is a PG. This is a G-rated show or a PG?
It is a business-rated show, and in multiple countries around the world.
Okay, so you're full of bleep, and it was just the way she brought about it and the way she talked about it. It was just because the level of trust that she had with that person and being very candid about what was going on, they were comfortable with that type of conversation. So it's building that level of trust. If you have someone new who doesn't know you come in, it's no different than for me when I'm teaching new students in jiu-jitsu. A lot of new students in jiu-jitsu, they get like the very polished version of myself to help them out. And like, I'm very conscious and very conscientious to make sure that my D style, where my dominant style, doesn't kind of come through and where I seem like a jerk. I'm very conscious of that. And I want to make sure that they kind of build up and warm up. And
before you lay that on them, right?
Before I lay that on them. Yeah. So they can see and they say, "Oh, okay, no, this is Jeremy. Okay, this is how he works. Okay." And then over time, it's just, now I can become I can trust them. I can be myself. They can trust me. They can be themselves. And we're off to the races.
Okay. So we are going to talk about manipulation and persuasion a little later on.
Okay.
Since you wanted to bring that up. Jeremy, I'm still worried. I'm still worried that we're dealing with scenarios that are best case scenarios and that the real world is just a wee bit messier. Before we wrap on this topic, I'm going to give you a scenario, and you're going to put your top-notch consulting hat on for a second and tell me how I should help this person. So, lo and behold, this person comes onto the team, this engineering team. He's told to stay in his lane, do as he's told. He's new. They've been at this for a long time. They know exactly how to make it happen. This person then decides to go his own way anyway, in terms of how the piece of engineering work that he was assigned. And it works out. It works out, and it works out great. And the other way probably wouldn't have worked. My read of the scenario is that team is still looking for ways to get back at him for breaking their trust. How should that be dealt with?
I think for after the fact, it's going to be a lot of trying to fix the burning bridges. From as it happens, I think it would be more kind of coaching the new individual and say, okay, you got a new way of doing things. Okay, how are you going to approach? Don't do it behind anyone's back, because whether it works or it doesn't, you're not going to end up in a good spot. They're kind of very not controlling, but they're very set in their ways. And then kind of say, okay, ask them, let's approach this from a different angle. Like, how would you approach it with them? Also, then coaching the old guard going in, say, okay, what if they have new ideas that help make things easier for you? Like, how should you approach these new ideas? And kind of slowly get them to kind of meet in the middle, so that when this new individual comes up with these new ideas, that the old guard becomes more accepting of.
I think that's fair. Jeremy, how would people continue the conversation? If they have scenarios like this, how would they get in touch with you and talk about them and perhaps find a path forward?
Sure. So they can reach me on LinkedIn, Jeremy Berriault, Toronto. I think I'm the only Jeremy Berriault in Toronto or in Canada, period. Actually, no, I'm not. There is another one, but I don't think he's on LinkedIn. You can also reach me through my email at jberriault@berriaultassociates.com.
As always, educational, eye-opening, well worth a discussion. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks, Tom.
In Reread Saturday News, Chapter 10 of Massimo Pigalucci's How to Be a Stoic, buy a copy, read along, link in the show notes, is titled Disability and Mental Illness. Sounds like a downer, doesn't it? It isn't. The author begins this chapter by reminding us that Stoicism's goal is to help people live the best lives possible. He uses stories of 3 people to illustrate how Stoicism can help people deal with difficult problems. I see this chapter as related to Chapter 9 last week and its discussion of role models. Link in the show notes to this week and all previous weeks' installments of our reread of How to Be a Stoic. In the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 837, we'll feature our interview with Gorkan Erkin. We talk about teams and engineering, topics that are near and dear to our hearts and your hearts. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?